Recording in progress.
Welcome to the special meeting of the San Mateo County Harbor District. It is May 22nd, 2025. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Tom, why don't you lead it?
Flag of the United States. One nation, under God.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Slater Carter,
Present.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Present.
Almarat,
Present.
Commissioner Zemke,
Present.
Commissioner Mathush.
Present.
Hey, public comment and questions. I have one written public comment. Is there anyone else with public comment on the?
No hands raised.
No hands raised. Okay. This is a public comment from Meredith Monica, who has been a resident of El Granada for 56 years. And she is talking in this letter. I'm going to summarize it briefly. She's a very senior citizen. She's lived here for 56 years. I am not opposed to all development and truly not to the beautification of the Burnham Strip. I am, however, very concerned about the safety, security, and sensibility of using Alhambra Avenue for ingress and egress to the proposed parking lot. I strongly suggest the three following topics: safety, security, and sensibility are considered before any access is determined. I and many residents are passionate and concerned about protecting our Alhambra Avenue as the lifeline of El Granada. In addition, Ave Alhambra has been the heart of our beautiful community and businesses and access to almost all the residential properties in El Granada, which are beautifully nestled along the Burnham Strip. She talks about safety for children getting to school, for adults walking, for families with pets. And essentially she asked many reasonable and important questions. And her basic message is no Alhambra access. You can, if you want to read this public comment, it will be posted on our website. If you want to see the details. So thank you, Meredith, for sending this, and we will make sure the public can read your entire letter. Moving on to board commissioner comments. Do we have any?
For the reporting requirements, a number of us went to the California Special District Association Legislative Days Conference in Sacramento. And I'm also following up on the request that our tenant keep us updated with the permits and progress every single month towards opening the remaining restaurant with Pelagic.
Anyone else? Virginia.
Yes, so I just wanted to maybe get it on the calendar, Jim, that the Cal LAFCO conference, I think right now is been scheduled for October 22nd. It shouldn't be a conflict for our meeting. I think our meeting is going to be on October 15th. But if that Cal LAFCO meeting changes, I'll let everyone know. But in the meantime, it's scheduled for October 22nd in San Diego. And I also want to thank all those who've written about the Burnham Strip and their concerns about parking or no parking, and because we've gotten a number of emails. So thanks for caring enough to write about it.
On a more somber note, I do know that there was an incident at Oyster Point Marina within the last week or so that did not involve district personnel, as I understand it, but it did involve a shooting that occurred, and I think it was towards the fishing pier, from what I understand. Yes. And that is under investigation by the police department in South San.
President of CMAC,
Okay, cool.
California Marine and Navigation Affairs Conference. So Jim, congratulations.
Yes.
Does that mean we have to work harder or say, Mr. President?
Chair.
Thank you, Jim, for serving.
And then one other quick note, I took advantage of a family trip to Santa Monica to take a look at the Santa Monica Pier Aquarium. And it's a really compact size aquarium. It's a lot of tanks, focusing on specialized species, a lot of touch me, feel me things for the kids. They have a shark tank where they can pet a shark. I mean, the kids all really like it. So it was a good example of something very, very small, something doable for, I think, our area and our region. So we'll work that up. We're going to look at, I just talked with Bill, we're going to put together kind of pictures of all the different places we visited so that when we do our facilitated workshops towards the end of the summer, we'll have a presentation of everything we're looking at and giving people ideas of what we're thinking. It was actually very well done. They had a little gift shop inside, you know, and usually like that. I have pictures for you.
How big is their pier compared to?
I'm sorry?
Their pier's probably.
This
more-
is below the pier.
Oh, okay.
So you would get it from the street side, right, right before you exit the sand area, they have a facility under the pier that. And their director gave me a call yesterday. I have to return a call, very excited about things we want to do and would like to help us with whatever we need. That was fun. So anyway, right.
I will add a comment, that in the discussion of the potential bills before the legislature, I think it's really important for special districts to stay in touch with their legislators. And if your association, whichever kind of association you are from, stay in touch with them, because what is coming out, one legislator recently elected said to a friend of mine who was there with CSDA, "What's a special district?"
Hmm.
He had never heard of special districts, LA. And he said to her, "I assumed just cities did it or counties did it. I didn't realize all the different functions of special districts." And I think it's important for legislators to hear from special district members, board members, even board members and clients and vendors, that special districts exist, that we are formed by the local citizens to meet local needs, and we are locally elected from the local community. Because one of the things they seem to forget in Sacramento is the local people pay the fees and taxes. And they're putting all these new costs on special districts. And then we're the ones who take the heat for the increases in our rates. And I think it's important to tell the legislators that this all is a pass through in one way or the other. Special districts routinely do not run deficits. They don't have outstanding debt as a rule. Well, outstanding debt, they will do loans and bonds, but it's not structural debt. We have to meet our budget every year. And so, again, I think it's important, and I would ask everyone, please get in touch with the legislators, not only for your district, but if you have family living in other districts, these kinds of costs will be passed on to them too. Thank you. Sure.
Catherine and I went to the 169th anniversary celebration of San Mateo County last week. Was it last week?
It was last
Last
week.
week. So, and it had quite a good turnout. So, I'm glad that we were able to at least represent the Harbor District there.
But it's important, again, special districts need to be visible. And so please, the other people to contact is the Board of Supervisors with about your, not your concerns about special districts, bring those to us, but about the fact that you recognize them and that we provide critical life necessary services to our local public. So thank you. We'll move on to activity reports, General Manager. Operations,
And nothing further down.
admin,
No.
yeah, good. Consent agenda. We've
Yeah.
got,
I like pull items 4 and 6.
which are the third quarter fiscal year rent report and the electric vehicle charging stations report. The others that if we have a motion, we will approve are bills and claims, minutes for April 16th, monthly capital project update. Four is the third quarter fiscal, 5 is third quarter fiscal financial report spending information, spending authority, 6 is electric vehicle charging station, 7 is the salary schedule, and 8 is bad debt write-off, and 9 is the investment report. So
So I'll move to approve the consent calendar or consent items, minus items 4 and 6.
Second.
thank you. All those in favor? Well,
Aye.
aye.
Do you want it, do we do roll call?
Do we need a roll call for a consent agenda when we're all here? And it's going to pass.
We need to do a roll call.
Okay, thank you. It passes unanimously.
Yep.
Okay, let's move into item 4, third quarter rent report.
I was just curious if we're gonna follow up with Oyster Point Yacht Club. I see that they had a change in their revenue. And because we've got such a special relationship with Oyster Point Yacht Club and the business that they're carrying on in there, I just want to make sure that they're diligent and working towards producing revenue for us. To just somehow follow up to see why they're off this much and what their plans are to improve that.
And item 6, electric vehicle charging station. Oh, what, and we'll approve these two together.
So, I thought it was rather outstanding that barely a request had been made to look at this, and we already have what's, to me is a very in-depth, good report, talks about how much it was costing us and how we've changed our rates. And I just thought that, staff should get a special recommendation for following up this quickly and identifying rates and revenue and fees. And I just want to thank you for following up like that. Well,
You're welcome, and I have to give a lot of credit to Boomer Henford also.
the staff, yes. All right, motion to approve 4 and 6.
Second?
All in favor? All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to G, discussion. Item 1, Surfers Beach Pilot Restoration Project Construction Bid Proposal.
But this is a motion regarding the Surfers Beach pilot restoration and eelgrass mitigation project. The motion is pursuant to a publicly advertised invitation for bid, authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with the qualified low bidding construction company Vortex Marine Construction, Inc. for the Surfers Beach pilot restoration eelgrass mitigation project for an not to exceed amount of $5,290,850 with a 10% contingency in the event that there's a need for change orders due to unforeseen challenges or additional work found needed, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations of $2,936,685 to be funded by available working capital, with the remainder $2,883,250 to be funded by the previously approved grant from Ocean Protection Council. The project plans, tech specs, and permits have all been approved, and construction is being planned for this summer. The construction invitation for bid for actual construction was posted on April 7th, and bids were opened May 6th, consistent with the public contract code. 3 bids were received and opened on May 6th. After extensive reviewing of all documents submitted, bid forms, following up on references provided, and reviewing qualifications, it was determined Vortex Marine Construction bid of $5,290,850 was the low qualified bid. The district applied for and received a grant for $2.9 million from Ocean Protection Council. This grant includes 2.8 that will be directly applied to construction costs, which will cover approximately half of the total proposed construction cost. Staff recommends the board approve the aforementioned bond.
Oh, okay, questions from the commission?
Just curious, do we have a schedule of when the activities will take place and maybe how they may impact the harbor or what the use of the harbor?
We'll be having significant discussion on, how the entire project will be phased. And will of course be, as we find out, we have to first bring on a contractor is what it boils down to. The contractor, the winning contractor will then put together actual schedules. And then we'll be, of course, making sure that all the tenants and the public are very well aware of anybody, because obviously Surfers Beach is well used by surfers, et cetera. That everybody's well aware in advance, anytime that the trail or the beach or our outer harbor there where the sand is going to be the donor area, or even West Trail, where we're going to be depositing some sediment for the eelgrass mitigation. Whenever anybody's impacted, we'll be planning well ahead and making sure that everybody's noticed.
I'm sensitive.
We got Brad Damitz here. I'm not sure if you're aware, Brad's our design engineering and coastal engineering consultant. Is kind of leading the project since its conception.
Hi, Brad.
I figured this one was important enough.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, so there is a time restriction in the eelgrass in that, eelgrass is a plant that needs light and it thrives during the long days during the growing season. So we don't want to transplant it too late during that growing season. We work with our biologists, MTS, to kind of determine what those dates would be. And we have certain deadlines for the contractor within the bid documents that they need to abide by. The deadline for having that eelgrass planted is August 1st. And moving backwards from that, they need to build up this, 4 or 5 acre platform under the water and let it settle for about 3 weeks. So, working back, we can figure out the timeline, talk about that later. But I'll just mention that the final deadline to complete the project, I believe, is October 15th to get everything, done. I think October 1st to complete the construction of the beach, and then another 2 weeks to kind of do demobilization and all that stuff. But
Transplant process, 1 week, 2 weeks, do we know how long?
I'd say somewhere in between 1 and 2 weeks. And we'll know for sure they're going to be out here starting this coming Monday, for the week doing eelgrass and other biological surveys. So we're going to get, confirmation of what that final amount of eelgrass is. And, they bundle it up, I think 5 or 6 strands together and then tie them to a biodegradable anchor and then plant them, space them out optimally. We're going to determine all those details once we have the eelgrass survey information.
Part of that, is there still, or do you see any opportunity for the community? I know it's in the summertime, so high schools are out to get some of those students to do some of the planting.
Yes, I think there will be, and we're going to talk with the biologists about that. And there would be specifically like, working on tying them together and that they wouldn't be diving or doing anything, obviously. Yeah. Yeah. And our team of biologists at MTS they've done that before. They like the idea of it. We never discussed it in detail. It was kind of, we'll wait until after everything gets approved, but yeah, will be an opportunity.
Do you have any plans to, I guess this goes to more PR of explaining what's happening to the public of, what this is and why we're doing it and things like that, that we can.
Absolutely, yeah. A few things, starting with the most basic ones. There's going to be construction signage, probably in the staging area or, in areas where people can see, and then they can read about the project and get information from that. We're going to be planning a public workshop, not a workshop, like a public meeting to kind of explain it. And we'll have the engineering team there. Somebody from City of Half Moon Bay will be there. Obviously district staff and myself. Ideally Louis White, who's on the Zoom right now, who's our lead engineer on the project, will be there. And hopefully the contractor too. And just kind of like say, okay, here's how it's going to play out. Here's the schedule. Here's what to expect. We've tailored the technical specifications very carefully to avoid as much as possible impacts to public use, the boat launch ramps. There may be, some minor temporary closures as they mobilize equipment and stuff, but we think we can do it in a way where the pipeline is not going to interfere with the pedestrian, the recreational trail, except for maybe when they're moving equipment and all that kind of stuff. So I
A lot of
think it's
that's
gonna,
mandated by our permitting, in addition to all of the notification to the public, et cetera, but we're going well above and beyond.
yeah. And John and Jim have provided, clear direction that we need to make this as low impact as possible. I don't foresee it being like the West Trail where it's a narrow trail and there's a big construction and it's, people walking. That went smoothly, by the way, but there was a lot of.
Very smoothly, and it's a great project, that one. More questions, George?
Yeah, just do you envision maybe on project's website and we advertise the project, alerting the public, and we tell them if you want to see what's going to come up the next week and what.
Yes, I do envision that, as well as emails going out, obviously for when there might be like a temporary closure of the boat launch ramp, but also probably just, okay, here's where we're at in the phase. It's going to start with the eelgrass stuff inside the harbor, and then they're going to start pumping it over the breakwaters later, so it's just going to be, and next meeting, we'll get into all that.
I'll tag on to what George is saying. I would like to see, as part of the harbor education efforts, that we have info boards with graphics and details and schedules posted both visibly at Surfers Beach, maybe by the restrooms, so people can see them, or someplace, you don't want the tide to take them out, so. Also at the harbor itself, because a lot of people are going to see what's going on over on the left side and go, wow, what's that? And on those posters, we should also have the website listed. And maybe even and on the website, and maybe on those, it's easy enough to do, is a place where people can request to be updated via email, so that you're building your email list. A lot of people don't quite know how to get through all the graphic stuff online and they want to be informed, but they don't quite know how to get to the person who would take their email and put it on the distribution list. But I think in the projects I've seen, I've found it very, very useful to have posters that this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it with, little graphics.
Yeah.
A lot more graphics than text.
Yeah, like at the
And-
West Trail, the one that we had up on the,
Exactly, but we need these in 2 locations now.
thinking maybe like the boat launch ramp area or the harbor master's office.
Harbor master's office and the restrooms,
The RV park restaurant,
the RV, yeah,
Definitely there.
right there where the project actually takes place, and then also at the harbor office.
exactly.
We can duplicate that, no problem.
That would be great, and I'd appreciate it if George and I could get a chance to sort of review them before they're finalized, just a quick look-see, but
Absolutely, yeah, and that was on my scope of work that the board approved, I think back in March, was to develop the signage. And I did the signs for the West Trail project as well. So-
I know, and those were very good, and the fact that this board for the Harbor District is taking such a strong interest in informing the public of what we're doing, I think this continues on.
Yeah, I agree. This is a community-driven project, really. You know. Part is like, it was really pushed by the public as well as staff and the commission. So
It
I
may,
think we owe them the, courtesy of.
In addition, the general manager has directed us to look at, there was already some discussion and plans to capture with time lapse.
Right.
The entire construction project, but the general manager directed us to also look and try to make that more cost effective, maybe by doing it ourselves potentially, so that we capture the entire project. But if we're doing it and we have a time lapse, we can continue to put segments of that time lapse so the public can view on our website.
thank you, I'm glad you're thinking, that you're planning on that.
Seems like Facebook and Nextdoor would be good things as well.
Absolutely.
Should coordinate with Michelle Dragony. She's already mentioned, we talked about that.
Posted buzz.
We don't have an account with Facebook.
I do.
You know, the accountant is post. You need to scan.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah,
He'll be our
so I-
teacher. Virginia.
Yeah, so I just want to, with Brad, thank you first for being so diligent on this for over 10 years at least, right? Like this
Almost
whole
10 years, but yeah.
over 10 years. I got on this board in 2015. So it's 2025 now. So at least that, and well, maybe not with you, but the whole issue. But I also want to thank staff for dealing with the cash management piece of this because as you know, infrastructure projects and, capital projects, they all require money. And over a 10-year period or longer during uncertain markets, it's just really hard to make sure that we're putting money in and dealing with the cash flow issues and not issues, but the cash flow and the cash management. And I was a little remiss in not highlighting the investment report that Rochelle put together and Julie's team, which is fantastic. It's basically making our money work for us through the investments that we're now making and the interest income that we're generating. So this type of cash management, I think, is very helpful for us so that we're trying to maximize our returns as we move forward with our capital projects. And I just want to thank staff for doing all of that. It's just, I think that, it's easy to say, oh, we need the dredging, we need this and we need that. And, but I think behind the scenes, where you really need the money, that's such an important factor. And a lot of the unsung heroes are the staff who make sure that we have the money and that we're managing the cash flow. So thank y'all for all of that. It's been, like I said, at least 10 years, and it's a long time with all of the uncertainties with the permitting process and even the capital markets. So y'all have done a great job. So thank you.
Thank you. And It looks like we don't need to bid. This is information or to vote. This is.
No, we do. I'll
We
make a
do.
motion. I'll make a motion to authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with Vortex Marine Construction for the Surfers Beach Pilot Restoration and Eelgrass Mitigation Project for an amount not to exceed $5,290,850 with a 10% contingency, and to authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and improve and increase in capital expenditure appropriations of $2,936,685 to be funded by available working capital, with the remainder of $2,883,250 to be funded from to be funded by a grant from the Ocean Protection Council.
Second.
Let's have a roll call vote.
Later, Carter, again, I think it's also important to note with the financial management of this project, cash management of this project. This is the project that we lost an $800,000
Grant, yes. Inefficiencies, yeah,
That were out by.
And incompetence.
which is
And,
the,
you know, that, but, permitting delays by other government agencies caused the delay and has resulted in a lot.
yeah, which is the reason, thanks, Jim, for that reminder, which is the reason I brought up the great work that was done by our team, because just shifting funds around, knowing that we lost that significant grant because of, inefficiencies, was not a good thing. And it was completely out of our control, but our financial team was able to manage that. And so thank you again.
Yes. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Slater Carter,
Yes.
Raleigh,
Aye.
Mr. Damrat,
Yes.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
Thanks,
It's
Brad.
so nice to be able to tell people this project is.
What, are we issuing a press release about this? Jim, our PR.
Jim, are we gonna issue a press release?
And yes,
I think we should.
I
Yeah.
think absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and I think everyone is excited about it, and they've heard it, but I think an official press release from us about today's resolution and how we're moving forward is important.
And if you want to send me a copy, I'll post it on next. Item number 2, Surfers Beach Pilot Restoration Project Construction Management Engineering and 5-year Monitoring and Adaptive Management.
Commissioners, this is related to the project, obviously, that we just approved construction for. It's a motion to authorize the general manager to enter into change order number 5 agreement with coastal management consultant Brad Dammits, who's here to answer any question, for construction support and 5 years of post-construction support monitoring for the Surfers Beach project, for an amount not to exceed $1,747,274, and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations for that amount to be funded by available working capital. Colin Dammits already back in March of this year had the board consider, and the board ultimately did approve all of the known costs at that time that consultant Dammits would need through project fruition for him to continue to manage and work through all of the challenges with his sub-consultants. However, now we've come to a point, once we've got all the permitting completely finished and we brought on a contractor, where Dammits, his sub-consultants, the ones that are actually going to be doing the third-party project management, being on property, watching and making sure that the construction contractor does in fact adhere to all the technical specifications and the required post, during and post construction monitoring, and the monitoring of all the seagrass, et cetera, is going to be done for the next 5 years. We had to wait until now to finally be able to accurately get what we believe would be a not to exceed amount for those services from the subcontract. So none of the monies here are actually for consultant damage. They are what we're going to be requiring throughout the complete finalization of the project 5 years from end of construction. So during construction and all the way to 5 years after construction. All of this is included in this $1.7 million amount. That said, consultant Damons did ask the subcontractors to break that total amount down where the commission can understand now, today, what is required just to get us through actual construction. And then the more significant amount that is required for the 5 years after construction. So it is possible that the board may consider today to just approve us through construction at present. And then reconsider the, maybe even going out to for the actual post-construction monitoring. We're not certain exactly. We don't believe that that would actually be beneficial, but it is something that the board could consider. Brad's here again today to speak to this item as well. Go ahead, Brad, take it over.
Okay, so yeah, couple of things about this. John mentioned this was when we came to you back in March. I said there's going to be a few more expenses coming up, and this covers all the rest of those expenses. I also mentioned there's a biological monitoring component, and we were able to get that covered with almost $100,000 of grant funding through Greater Farallones Association. So I'd like to thank that organization for the role of helping out with the project. So what this does include is, I'd say, two major things. Okay, so during the construction, we have engineering support, which would be provided by ESA, and Louis can answer questions about that. But what that is kind of working with the contractor on the details of the plans, finalizing the plans based on the bathymetry surveys, pre-construction that are about to occur, a number of other tasks. It also includes the construction management and inspection services by Joe Hill Construction Engineering. And what that is a third-party company that has people on the ground inspecting, watching it. They're going to be there for different periods of time as the project moves on. So in the beginning phases, as the contractor is kind of figuring out the details, they're going to be there for a good deal of the time. They're going to be signing off on the inspections to make sure that the sand is placed correctly on the beach and inside the harbor for the eelgrass. And they're going to kind of act as an advocate for the district to ensure that the contractor is doing what they're contracted to do responsibly and without issues. So that's a really important part of any construction project, and it's a component for anything that big project like this or the West Trail. The other one, which is a big one, is the 5-year construction. I mean, the post-construction 5-year, and actually pre-construction, construction, and post-construction physical monitoring. So a couple things I want to mention about this is it's fairly extensive. The amount of data that's being collected for a project like this is, expensive, and there's a lot of details, a lot of data that's going to be collected. And the reason for that is that this is a pilot project being conducted in a national marine sanctuary where nothing like this has happened before. And in order for them to permit it, and the other agencies, they've asked us to kind of look at things like where the sand goes, how long it stays on the beach, all kinds of details like that, which Louis can answer questions about. So not only will they learn from the project, but it will also inform district on, potential to do projects like this, ideally funded by the Army Corps, not the district in the future, but how could it be modified or adapted to a larger project? How could we do it better if there are issues that were not anticipated? All that kind of stuff. So that's the importance of the monitoring program. As far as the cost, we are exploring grant funding to see if we can get some funding to kind of cover that, and we would apply for grants. But the other thing I wanted to mention is I think there's a pretty good likelihood that as part of the large Army Corps general investigation that's going to happen, that if the district, as part of the funding for the monitoring program, they could use that as a match, in-kind match for the funds. Now, but that's just speculation at this point. I'm looking into it. But I've worked on other projects where that was the case. So it's not out of the question. It's just, something that needs to be explored. And then the other.
Real quick, and what Brad's explaining is actually, again, like I alluded to earlier, two parts here. One is the services through construction period, which out of that 1.7 million is 528,402. So that's what we definitely need. 500,000, 402.
That would, okay, so that was.
528,402.
okay,
That's what we definitely
528.
need to get us through construction. Then
So,
we've got the post-construction, 5 years of monitoring, et cetera, which is another 1.2 million.
Yeah, so the
Right. so
pre-construction.
I get, okay, I was just gonna ask you what that split was, the dollar amount. Okay,
We've got it in the proposal, but
I didn't see it, but I may have missed it. Did I miss, I was looking in the report.
Yeah.
Um,
Those numbers aren't in staff, we're in the actual proposal.
oh, okay,
We've got a.
okay, I had to look at all of this online yesterday. Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Okay,
We're
so
here
that's,
for
okay, got it.
What I was going to mention is like things like the bathymetry survey, where we get the bathymetry for the dredging and all that stuff, and that Surfers Beach. Those are things that are part of the pre-construction, installing some instruments to be able to measure the wave height and the tides. Getting baseline beach profiles so that we can compare to after the sand is placed and then see over time how that goes. So those are all the pre-construction stuff. And then there's the post-construction monitoring for 5 years that John mentioned before.
That split is not in the staff report as an alternative, which I hope next time if we do something like that, it would be offered as an alternative in the staff report.
I'd like to also mention there is one other component of it. It's a small contract for Bob Battaglio, Coastal Futures. He was the lead engineer for years when he was at ESA. And I just thought it was really valuable to keep his involvement to advise as needed and do some site visits during the construction, particularly if any issues with the sand placement occur. It's I think it would be very useful to have his involvement. So that's why I've got him on there for an amount of 11,100.
If I could just make one comment before we have public comment. The motion was for the full amount because we were going to recommend to the board to split it up and that the lower have to just do the minimal amount for funding. But after extensive review of the budget and our forecasts, we felt it better for the board to approve the entire funding because we're required to do the monitoring and post-construction work. There's no question, we have to do it. So it's better for budgeting and forecasting for us, since we have those funds, to do it all up at once so that we can put it in the budget and carry it on.
Right, so I agree with that, Jim, but the public's gonna read the report, and when you bring another alternative in, I think that should be in the report. Even though your recommendation would be to do this, right?
My mistake, I should have brought.
No, it's fine. Because I'm
We did-
reading
we
this
did consider
online.
that, and that's why it's in the actual report from the contractor. But because of the budgeting requirements and what we're required to put into the budget in future
Yeah.
years,
Yeah,
we felt it was better to put the full amount.
yeah, I agree.
Since we have to do it anyway.
I agree, but I'm just saying that. mention
Understood.
that in the report, because I saw Brad's little, chart that it's in the proposal table one, which was good here. And so, that was helpful, but I didn't, when you were talking about it, Don, I actually have in my notes, what is the split 50-50? So anyway, that was my
Yeah,
mistake.
that was
Too.
my call. John and Julie did a fantastic job.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
I recommended that we just put the total amount since we're gonna have to approve that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying in the report for Backtown. Yeah.
Well, I'm confused by the first paragraph in the staff report, because
Under background.
under recommended motion,
Oh, okay.
because the way I read it, it could be read that the $1,747,274 is an identical number, but it is 274 is what it says on mine.
274, 1747274.
Okay, whatever. But that number, it's asking, it has an and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations. And so I could read it as we're voting on two identical numbers. So the real number is roughly 2,500,000. If you double that. And so I'm confused as to, this is a single, not to exceed number that will increase the expenditure appropriations by that number. It's not double.
Right, it's the second number, increasing the capital expenditure, authorizing us to take basically
Yeah.
the 1.7 million from savings and put it
Put it
into
in.
checking,
Yeah.
Right. Well,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's basically the
With
the
the same
budget,
money.
the budget side is
Same
the
exact
sec-
money.
yeah.
right.
it's the budget side is the other side, the
One's
second one.
approving the-
Right.
One approving in contract, the other one is approving the moving.
Of the money.
fund From one pot of money to.
I realize that, and I think it should have been better explained in that first paragraph.
Okay, this is standard language, but we'll improve upon it, so it's clear.
Yeah, and as always, like, and yeah, something's following additionally that we're going to, and so in any event. More questions from the,
Yeah, I just want to mention that I am working with the Corps to see if we can revive the RSM money that was appropriated a while ago, that is like, they may be able to reapply for it. That was to do only numerical modeling, no data collection, so the data would have to come from all these other
Other fund.
expenditures.
Yeah.
And then the other part is, if it's still the way it used to be, then a feasibility study that's cost shared between the federal government and the district would be able to use portion of it in cash, portion can be in-kind services, including data. So the data that you collect for us, as you were saying, you were going to pursue with the Corps, the ability to offset that in the future, I think is worthwhile pursuing. We may not know something until we get into feasibility, but the data is going to be there, and that's exactly the kind of data they're going to need for the numerical modeling. And the model will then help to predict various alternatives for the future.
right,
So if the model works and it works well, then when we get into feasibility for the other study, then that will be used to evaluate alternatives, whatever they may come up with.
And that other study is the study that was authorized by
Right.
Word of 2024.
Hasn't been funded yet, but we're pursuing funding for FY 26. I'll continue working with Ari at the Corps.
That's.
He was asking some questions, does everything still look like it was when they pursued it? I'll have to.
I heard from him yesterday, and he said that he did submit the application, so we're just standing by
Oh, so
the proposal, I guess you call
they're
it.
already on the call back, so you got them before I did. Good, okay. So yeah, they will resubmit it. Hopefully we'll, you know, that'll help out.
Great teamwork.
Question.
Do I have more questions,
Yeah.
Virginia?
So Bob Batalia's, what, I guess his responsibilities are, I'm assuming they're starting on page 69 of your proposal, right? And so I'm just want to make sure that that's for 5, is that for 5 years of monitoring? Or
No, Bob,
1 year?
Bob has a separate proposal at the end, so Appendix B, past the ESA stuff. And his would be for the construction phase,
Okay,
limited to just the construction phase. Okay, that's the monitoring area from the ESA. There should be another one after that. There's nothing that follows it?
that's why,
Okay,
that's why I thought it was in,
Very near.
no, that's why I thought it was on page 69 and that he was working with you on this, but it sounds like it's a separate.
It's a separate-
expense, but I don't, so what's the scope of his responsibility?
scope of his responsibilities are to conduct site visits. He lives in Pacifica.
I know,
Get down
but
here.
what is he gonna do from these sites?
Report on it and coordinate with ESA on the details with their the main engineering support, but also, you know, as needed, advising if issues arise. So, or not even as issues arise, but if we need his expertise on anything, just to have him available to be able to participate in the meeting or, you know, write up a brief memo. I believe like we've got 3 or 4 visits on there at least.
Is he gonna be on call then for the other stuff? If it comes up?
Yep, on call.
Particularly, this is a retainer, right? This 11,000.
More or less, but I mean, we're holding him to visit a certain amount of
Yeah,
times
that's, yeah.
if there's incidents, so we'll use him, you know, carefully. Not just,
5-year monitoring adaptive plan.
Yeah, that's, what that, on page 69?
there should have been another one, and that might have been my error.
6A is recreational and surfing experience, but I think that is a
Right, that,
A to the monitoring plan, not the staff report.
correct. That's how I read it, Jim. So I was looking at starting page 69, the annual monitoring activity subtasks. That's in Brad's, that's under the main heading of 5-year annual monitoring, starting on page 68, right? So that's why I was just trying to find out what Bob's scope of responsibilities would be vis-a-vis
And if you,
this.
if you look on page 93,
Did I miss that, Jim?
that starts with the scope of work for Bob.
93.
93, okay.
Yeah, so construction observation and as needed advice. Observations of the construction site, activities and progress will be made when authorized by Damons. Observations will be visual and photographic. Each observation day is expected to consist of 2 to 4 hours at the site. A memorandum documenting the observations will be produced for each day. The memorandum will be as brief as practical with pictures and limited text. And I'd say that Bob provided the service during the West Trail project, and it was, yeah, it was very good. Memorandum will be as brief as practical, as needed construction advice during construction services will also be provided to the extent requested within budget or as additional services. So, you know, it's fairly flexible and brief scope of work.
No, so I'm okay with that. I just missed this. I'm sorry. My apology, Brad. I was reading this online and anyway. It was hard for me to see it anyway, no, so I mean, I don't
There's
know.
a lot of research that says online is
The
not.
format is not easy.
It's not as easily understood as pencil and paper.
I agree. Okay. Do you want a motion?
I would like, well, I want public discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Looking to see if public discussion is ended. And there's none, so let's have a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion to authorize the general manager to enter into change order number 5, an agreement with coastal management consultant Brad Dammit for construction support and 5 years of post-construction monitoring for the Surfers Beach pilot restoration and eelgrass mitigation project in an amount not to exceed $1,747,274 and improve the increase on the budget side and the capital expenditure appropriation in the same amount by working capital.
Second that.
Thank you, Bill. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Slater Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Tomra,
Yes.
Humke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush.
Aye.
And
Good.
we
That,
should probably put that in the press release, too, right, Jim?
Yeah.
The 2 things, okay.
that ends the discussion items. Moving on to future agenda items.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Brad.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Louis.
Thanks, Brad.
Come back with more details on the monitoring because it is very interesting, the data collection, using some AI and video cameras, and offshore wave buoys.
The June.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to say for the public, that's what adds up the projects of these the costs on these construction projects is all of the add-ons that are required. It's not simply the construction.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, moving on, future
Well, thanks-
agenda items.
Thanks for sticking with us for so long.
This is a big day for me, believe me.
It's a big day for the harbor and the coast side constituents.
It's
residents.
huge.
I appreciate everybody's perseverance as well, and
Thank you.
staff. Thank you so much.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're done.
You're seconding. At 10:58. Good job.
I believe it's unanimous.
I guess so.
Less than half an hour.
Great job, Jim, John, Julie, Rochelle.
Record